This year marks the 80th anniversary of Korea's liberation, as well as the 80th year since the passing of poet Yoon Dong-ju, a figure known for his poetry dedicated to the Korean independence movement during Japan's occupation of Korea. Yesterday, December 30th, was also Yoon's birthday. For our last K-Correspondent segment of year 2025, we go over to a Korean electronic musician based in London who blends experimental sounds with poetic influence, such as Yoon Dong-ju's works. So let's connect with musician and sound artist Edith. Hello, Edith.
Hello,
Hi,
Edith.
Hello, Culture Wave. Thank you for having me.
So Edith, first and foremost, you've been active as a musician in the UK for several years. So please tell us about that and how you're influenced by poet Yoon Dong-ju.
Yes, I've been in London for about a year now, but my connection to Yoon Dong-ju's poetry began much earlier. I think in 2016, I took part in a creative music project based on his poems. And that experience became a turning point for me. So through working with his poetry, I slowly fell in love with Yoon Dong-ju, not just as a poet, but also as a person. So I was deeply moved by how personal and honest his writing is. Rather than making loud political statements, his poems focus on inner emotion, like a vulnerability, and the quiet lives of ordinary people. That felt incredibly human and timeless to me.
Right, and Yoon Dong-ju often found poetic meaning in the smallest moments of everyday life. So in your own creative process, which moments or emotions tend to inspire you the most?
I think I'm very interested in stories and I love films and I also enjoy reading both fiction and nonfiction as well. And inspires me most are other people's stories and lives and experiences, and then reflecting on them in my own way. So sometimes inspirations comes from very small moments, like sitting alone in a cafe or drinking coffee and overhearing someone talking at the next table. So I start imagining what kind of life they have or what situation they are in. So yeah, but I often write those imagined stories down. When I compose, I usually start with text fully first and then build the harmony and sound around it. And because of that, working with poetry has always felt quite natural to me.
Edith Walter here. So how do you interpret and express Yoon's poetry into music or through sounds?
I usually start by focusing on the images or feelings that stay with me after reading a poem. Sometimes a smell, sometimes a visual scene, or just a mood. Then I try to express that feeling in a different form. So, for example, if Yoon Dong-ju drew something with a pencil, I might translate it into something more abstract, like board paint or like a texture. Even when working with the same poem, my version becomes a new interpretation. I also think many of the emotions in his poetry, like loneliness, self-reflections, isolation, still connect strongly with people today. So I try to bring out those images using modern sounds. In my song's Confessions, there's a line that says, 그때 그 젊은 나이에 왜 그런 고백을 했던가? And that line felt like the core of the poem to me. So I made it the main hook of the chorus. For me, atmosphere and emotional feelings are always more important than strict structure.
I see. And how do you feel your identity as an artist from Korea influences your sound and emotional sensibility? And do you plan to continue centering your work around Korean lyrics like you've experienced just now, and also vocal styles in your future as well?
Oh, yes, thank you. Living in the UK has actually made me feel more aware of my Korean identity. Koreans care a lot about style, yeah. So not just fashion, but attitude, presence, and form. And that idea of mode or like a chaemyeon, like a face, is very strong in Korean culture. So when I was living in Korea, that awareness sometimes felt uncomfortable or even heavy. But being abroad helped me see it differently. I think the global success of Korean culture is happening because this sense of style and identity is finally being recognized and appreciated internationally. Because of that, I naturally want to continue working with Korean lyrics and vocal styles, and it feels honest to who I am.
And speaking of that recognition, recently Korean female DJs, producers, or electronic musicians like you, like Peggy Goo and Yeji, have been gaining plenty of recognition on the global stage. Do you think there is a distinct strength or appeal that Korean women bring to the international music scene?
Oh, yes. First of all, I'm a huge big fan of both artists as well. And at the same time, I don't really like framing their success mainly through gender. So I don't think they are respected because they are big female musicians. They are respected because they are simply great artists. And their strength comes from having a very clear identity, style, and direction without needing to label themselves in any specific way. So that's what makes them powerful. So especially here in the UK, Peggy Goo is often the first name people mention when they find out I'm Korean. So she's someone who has truly changes the scene, yeah. And I have a lot of respect for her, yes.
And people often talk about a uniquely Korean emotional feature in music. So from your perspective, what feels most distinctly Korean in musical terms?
I see. Regardless of the gender, I think this might be a bit off topic, but I once studied traditional Korean flower arrangement, like a gokgoji, and I think its philosophy connects deeply with music. In Korean styles, the focus isn't on controlling or shaping everything perfectly. Instead, it's about the balance and between object, space, and the emptiness. So that idea also exists in Korean music and rhythm, and isn't always about the strict counting, or like a phrase can be very long, and instead of counting the beats, you learn to feel the rhythm by the breathing and the listening together. So there's a lot of freedom and inspirations and individuality in that process. And I think recently I formed an experimental group called Rito, and where we combining electronic music with traditional Korean instruments like the piri and the 장구 and 깽가리. And through this, I want to explore how Korean musical thinking can live and live inside modern sound.
Sounds very interesting. And finally, could you briefly tell us about any current projects you're working on?
Oh, yeah, thank you. And I have live shows coming up in London in January and March. And in March, I will be performing at the Amersham Arms in London, and which is a well-known venue here. And that feels very meaningful to me. And I'm also planning to release a new single album in the first half of next year. And I'm currently working on my first full-length album. And alongside my solo work, I've been DJing across Europe and hope to continue connecting with audiences both in the UK and beyond.
Looks like a very busy 2026 for you, Edith. Thank you very much for connecting with us, and we wish you a happy new year and the best for your music activities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Happy
New Year. And thank you very much, Bella, for spending the culture wave with us today.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Walter, as always. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Thank you for spending the past half an hour with us on The Culture Wave. This was the final episode of The Culture Wave. That's culture with a K. But we'll be back to provide you with your daily dose of K-culture issues with a new show, K-Culture Dive, launching on January 2nd, Monday to Friday, same time, 2 p.m. Korea time. So thank you for all your support for The Culture Wave and Happy New Year.